Another, perhaps stronger possibility, they were acquaintances. Could this have been a fellow student?
Statistically, it's most likely to be someone from that community. Most likely to be a fellow student, somebody who may have been in the house before or invited into the house even in those early morning hours, perhaps by one of the victims. We can't rule that out.
The use.
Pay attention to the glove the one on the left is wearing. He's just wearing one glove. Wasn't one glove found in the crime scene with blood? "3:09 is the time. Pay attention to the one glove he's wearing. Looks like an electrician glove. Aunt Taylor needs to see this. I've shown this 2 years ago. Two DNAs was found there, blood on the railings and the glove. These boys from the Sigma Key are carrying large knives. Why are they blaming Kohlberger?
Creates concern or issues about that need to be investigated further. But I'm not sure that that diminishes the probable causes. Mr. Kohlberger, if his DNA is found on a knife sheath found on or near the victim, who was stabbed with said alleged knife that would have been in said alleged sheath.
I think the most prominent question is, how did that sheath get there? And I think when you ask that question, I think you can have DNA on an object at a scene when you know about all of these other things and you don't find probable cause, because there are more questions than there are answers. And all of a sudden, this one thing doesn't look as big. It doesn't look as everything pointing to it when you have the context around it. The magistrate didn't have to have every detail of the case, but knowing how many attempts to find a DNA connection there were, and it didn't exist, in Brian's car, in Brian's apartment, that there's no other DNA in there other than an unknown male B that we know of for sure, an unknown male D outside.
Okay, so these arguments are by the defense in an attempt pre-trial to get something done, to get charges dismissed, to get evidence excluded. It's not going to happen.
I personally believe it's going to happen. You can't have unknown blood DNAs inside the house railing and on a glove and ignore that. That calls for a Frank's hearing. How did those DNAs get there? And the knife sheet itself doesn't mean that it's Kohlberger's knife sheet. That's touch DNA. There's no solid evidence here. But we can clearly see people carrying large knives. At the grub truck, we can see the picture Saeed is watching. I believe the three boys from Banfield are very involved. One is wearing one black glove. We can see that Brian Christopher Kohlberger is not doing well in prison. He's becoming thinner. He's shrinking. He could be weird. And he could look weird. But that doesn't mean that he unlived 4 people. Where was Elon Hush? He was subpoenaed in the start by Ann Taylor. The crime scene was tampered with. Look at them. No one's wearing gloves and they're going inside.
They are claiming that he's innocent in court. Would you test it or through genetic genealogy? Would you take those samples and do anything and everything you could to track down whose DNA it is from the defense side here?
Well, first of all, we do not have any obligation like that. I don't like the idea of doing any of the states' work for them. But let's face it, it is now an issue. I think it's incumbent upon the state to go now find out who that is. Whoever
What if
that
they
may-
don't? What if they don't? Would you say, well, they're not going to do it? Well, then I'll do it, Your Honor. Would you?
Yeah, it's a little arrogant. You have to be careful playing outside what you need to do, culling outside the lines a little bit. But yes, if there's evidence out there, absolutely. Because here's the thing. We know that they have Kohlberger's evidence of the DNA on one thing. If there are two other people out there or one other person out there, they call them unknown B and D, that indicates to me that they've decided it's not the same blood sampling. Don't know how that's happened yet, but it seems to be that way, potentially. Yeah, I might take that shot. Now, don't forget, you get an opportunity as the defense to maybe get a part of that DNA and do it somewhat under the defense protection, right? That work product. I don't see it happening that way, but I cannot imagine the government going to trial in this case without having done everything that they could possibly do to get those blood splatters or blood tests done.
And looking at where it was found in this case, a glove and on a railing, how significant is that? And do you think the defense will tell a story based upon where it's found and how it's found?
Well, absolutely. I mean, if we have a glove and it has blood that is not Kohlberger's, that's extraordinarily significant, because part of the reason why there's not a whole bunch of other evidence there is the argument that somebody was using a glove, or somebody was protecting their own DNA from being found. So blood that is not Kohlberger's on a glove, I think, is extraordinarily significant. That would go from a 7 to a 9 at least. And the handrail is somewhat significant. Again, whichever one it might be, it is suggestive that somebody was bleeding, at least a little bit, going up there. If it's not Kohlberger, then the question again remains, who is it? Because if it's not Kohlberger, then there's somebody else who maybe should be charged in this case besides him.
I totally agree. The two DNAs, B and D, are really important. The samples needs to be tested. They should have been done earlier. One was on the railing, blood on the railing. We don't know if it's the second floor, third floor, or the first floor. And the glove. These four victims deserve the correct justice, and so does Brian Kohlberger. This was the frats who were angry. Jack Showalter was really angry with them. The figures running came from Maddie and Kaylee, in my opinion. And the three boys in Banfield came for E and Zana. That's all my opinion. One of the boys in Banfield has on a glove. The other one's hand was really injured, so he could have been the one bleeding. This is all, in my opinion, guys. Who was living in this room? I wonder if Hunter and the frats were actually living in this room. They kept on opening the door for the police. Pay attention to this. Do you remember we used to hear that there was a fight at the Sigma Chi at 3 a.m. and the police was called there? I believe it is this call was for the Sigma Chi. It wasn't for the Banfield. They're trying to confuse us. Because the police were already stopping the boys around 2:54. And this call was at 3:01. So the fight at the Sigma Chi happened at 3 a.m. Or the police were called at 3 a.m. 3:01. Now pay attention. Saeed is talking to the police and the boys are running in the field and the police run after the other boys too at 2:54. We hear the female yelling at 2:55. So the call that was made to the police at 3:01 was actually for the fight at the Sigma Chi. Interesting. So this is when the unalivings was happening. The time is 2:54 and 18 seconds. So the police just came across these ones and stopped them. The police wasn't called for these boys. They were called for the Sigma Chi. Because look at the time, 2:54.
And call logs are public record. Anybody can see them, and rightly so, because taxpayers pay for that work product. And now some eagle-eyed followers of the Idaho quadruple murder case have picked up on one particular item from the police on the night that the 4 college kids were murdered. In fact, the incident in question happened at almost exactly the same time as the killings. I'm going to read to you what the police blotter actually says. Quote, there was an alcohol offense reported at 3:01 a.m. on November 13th, and that's the last night the kids were alive. The location, a field on Taylor Avenue. You can see it there.
Sorry, guys. I know it's cold. Like I said, it's one thing to drink inside, I'm sure. I mean, we've all been to college. We've all been there. But it's another thing to be very publicly intoxicated and kind of bring this conversation on you. So, that being said, not the end of the world. So, just an infraction, not a criminal charge, nothing like that. So
if you pay attention, this was at 3:12 that the police gave them the tickets and let them go. But it started at 2:54 when they were running away from the police in the field. So it couldn't have been the one Ashley Banfield was just telling us about. That call was at 3:01, and that was for the Sigma Chi. So I believe the fight happened at the Sigma Chi at 3:01. And then you have the Banfield boys coming from 1122 Kings Road. You have the white car driving at 2:58. So the call at 3:01 was for Sigma Chi. I wonder if this is David Lott, his truck. He and his sons were carrying weapons at the grub truck, allegedly. This truck was seen in front of the girl's house, near the girl's house, just passing by. That was at 1:59. It does look like the same white truck that was driving to the corner club when Kaylee, Maddie, and Shawalter were walking to the grub truck. I think all these unalivings happen both by foot and by vehicles. The time Saeed comes in is 2:54 and 23 seconds. And the police call was at 3:01. So that had to be to the Sigma Chi. Why are they trying to confuse us? just two separate incidents. Where did Saeed come from? The three boys at Banfield and Saeed came from 1122 Kings Road, I believe. And there were more people there, the figures running. 4chan made sense. Why does Saeed's hand look so red? So the police body cam came on at 2:53. And this alcohol offense is written as 301. There was a fight at the Sigma Chi. Was it this one? Doesn't make sense. Or did they log it later on? I doubt. Taylor Avenue. Sigma Chi is near Taylor Avenue. Molly Gray paid Liz Kachovish at 3:45 p.m. Were they paying to see the unalivings, or were they betting on the unalivings? They're sending Venmos to each other. Quite strange. Wasn't Molly Gray at the grub truck? This is when Keely and Mary saw the Sigma Chi boys. Or Sigma Chi. Mary and Keely look very uncomfortable with Shawalter and Vito. Was Shawalter the stalker Keely had, allegedly? What is he carrying in his jacket? Trigger warning. What is Jovita watching? Is that you on the floor? You can see someone sitting on the floor, injured. I know it's blurry. I'm just trying to check what they're watching at the grub truck. Was Dylan driving this truck that night? So she wasn't even at home when the unalivings was happening. Didn't the tripod record a female hysterically running from the sliding door behind? And he said there was a black truck in front of the house. Is Dylan part of this? Chief Fry didn't even want to call them witnesses. He said they were just there. Just there doing what? Why did it take you 8 hours to call the police? I understand why it took Bethany 8 hours, because she's selling in the house. She's a dealer. Allegedly. That's what her Venmos say. What was Diam up to that night? So now I've showed y'all why Bethany Fong couldn't call 911 for the 4 victims. This was what Bethany was doing. COKE. I've showed you before. It's Bethany Funk is Venmos. So this is clearly why Bethany Funk couldn't call the police. She was busy dealing with CRACK and cocaine, hiding it behind dumpsters. And Dylan Watterson was driving a black truck. She heard the rummaging upstairs and she knew it was the Sigma Chi boys. They did it within 19 minutes. That makes it 3:12 a.m. And they started it at 2:52. I showed you all the black glove. I showed you all DM's black truck. And I showed you what Bethany was doing. She was dealing rugs. So she couldn't call the police, obviously. I wonder if she and DM drove out to the house and they were taking the rugs out to the house. Was this all planned? Let me know what you'll think in the comments. But what is more important is the call at 3:01, I believe, was for the fight at the Sigma Chi fraternity party. They made it seem like it was for Banfield, but Banfield started at 2:53, and I showed you all that. Let me know what y'all think. And I apologize. I have a cold, a flu, getting much better. I really wanted to explain the 90 minutes theory. I wanted to explain why Bethany Funk couldn't call the police. She was the one doing rugs in the house, at least right up to 2021. I believe there are many people involved in this crime, and it all was the frats and the students and the jacks. Please like, share, and subscribe.